In this exercise, we'll convert a drawing of a molded shroud to a solid model. We'll use a few tricks that simplify working with the more complicated drawings of a molded part. We'll create two vertical lines by picking these end positions. We'll use the lines to correctly identify the two circles that define the outer shutoff diameters on the part. Then we'll use the Change Attribute tool to change them to a unique color. We'll switch to View 7 and delete the two lines we created earlier. We'll use the X-Form Dynamic tool to rotate the front view downward 90 degrees. We'll use the X-Form Dynamic tool again to drag the two circles we modified downward. We'll indicate the Z position by snapping on this line with a center mid or indent option. We'll click on the Extrude icon and select the 2 position option with 5 degrees draft inward. We'll quick chain select this outer set of curves and then the downward facing vector. Using center mid, we'll click on this line to set the extent. We'll use Extrude again and select the 2 position option with 5 degrees draft outward. This time we'll select the 2 circles in the upward facing vector, and using center mid, we'll click on this line to set the extent. We can verify that the blend radii are 0.15 from curves on the drawing. We'll remove everything but the solids from the display and use the dynamic rotation icon to flip the solids. We'll Boolean union the 3 solids. We'll create a 0.15 constant radius blend on these 3 edges. We'll click on the shell icon and type 0.1 for the thickness. Then we'll select the 2 shutoff faces and the main parting face. Our finished part will look like this. So let's work with an actual file. We'll open sample file KCV shroud2.ckd. Let's click on the vertical line icon. Using the indent option, we'll click on this corner and on this corner. And that makes it easy in the top view to see when we change the color that we're grabbing the right circle. It's real easy to make a mistake picking the wrong circle. You want that outer shutoff edge. So we're going to change those 2 circles to a different color and change it to a solid line for that matter also. Now we're going to delete the 2 lines that we created. Those were just a visual aid. We'll use the X-Form Dynamic tool and we'll select that front view and rotate it downward. Using the indent option, we'll place the dyna handle here, rotate it downward 90 degrees. We're just going to use this to pick depth, so we only need to rotate to one view. So what we're going to do is pick the 2 circles by color, move them downward, select the blue vector downward, and we'll use the Z position with center mid and pick this. Remember, those define a shutoff at a shutoff depth. We'll pick a light construction color for the model. Now let's do extrude. We'll use the 2 position with 5 degrees draft inward. Click on OK. We'll use a chain select. Remember, our construction plane is on that, so we can use quick chain select. We'll grab that outer profile, downward vector, and now remember, we're going to use center mid and pick that bottom edge there, so that's the main part. Now we're going to switch to outward, still using 2 positions. We'll select the 2 circles we grabbed earlier. Okay. We're going to run upwards, and they're going to stop at that same depth. Now we'll use a dynamic rotation, and we'll flip this sucker around, and you can remove the other entities from the display if you want at this point. We'll Boolean union these 3 guys together. And of course we can delete at this point everything else, as I mentioned. Now, with just the solids up, we're going to type 0.15 for our constant radius blend. We'll pick this big outside edge and these 2 intersection edges there. It gives us a shape that looks like this. Now we'll use shell. From the drawing we know that our shell thickness is going to be 0.1. So we're going to select the 2 shutoff faces, and then of course the main face. You're going to hit spacebar to get down to that. And there's our finished part. We'll switch back to view 7, take a look at it. So let's recap. In this exercise, we converted a drawing of a molded shroud to a solid model, and we used a few tricks that simplified working with the more complicated drawings of a molded part. First thing we did was create 2 vertical lines by picking these end positions. And we simply use these so that when we're looking at the top view, we get all those circles close to each other. We want to make sure we grab the right circle for the edge of that shut off area. We're going to change the attribute in that circle. I'm going to magenta solid here. Switch to view 7 and we deleted 2 lines we created earlier. First thing we're going to use is the X-Form Dynamic tool to rotate the front view downward 90 degrees. While we got that sucker in our paw, we're going to use it again to drag the 2 circles modified downward. And we'll use the Z position by snapping on this line with the center mid. Clicked on the extrude icon and selected the 2 position option with the 5 degrees draft inward. Chain selected this outer edge of curves and then the downward facing vector, and using center mid we clicked on this line to set the extent. Used extrude again. The only difference, we switched to outward to position again. This time we selected the 2 circles in the upward facing vector. Using center mid we picked on that same line again. We verified that the blend radii are 0.15 from curves on the drawing. And we removed everything but the solids from the display and used the dynamic rotation icon to flip the solids over. We Boolean union the 3 solids together. Now we use the constant radius blend tool with a 0.15 value to blend these 3 edges, and then we shelled at 0.1, selecting the 2 shut-off faces and the main parting line. And our finished part looked like this.